Have you ever stood before a truly massive structure, something so grand it feels like it's been there forever? The Great Wall of China is one of those wonders. For centuries, it has stood as a symbol of strength, perseverance, and the division between empires. But what if it was never built? What if that monumental decision was never made? How would our world, our history, and even our modern lives be different? Today, we're going on a journey into an alternate timeline, a world without the Great Wall. Let's explore a history that could have been. Imagine a world where this iconic landmark is just gone. No winding stone dragon across the mountains, no watchtowers dotting the horizon. This isn't just about removing a tourist attraction. It's about erasing a key piece of geopolitical history. Without the wall, the course of Chinese history, and by extension, world history, would be drastically altered. The most immediate impact would be on the political landscape of ancient China. The primary purpose of the Great Wall was defense, specifically against nomadic tribes from the north, like the Xiongnu, and later the Mongols. Without this massive barrier, the northern frontiers of Chinese dynasties would have been far more porous and vulnerable. This would have forced a complete rethink of military strategy. Instead of a static, defensive line, dynasties like the Qin and Ming would have needed to maintain large, highly mobile armies constantly patrolling a vast and open border. This is incredibly expensive, not just in terms of money and resources, but also in manpower. This constant military drain could have destabilized dynasties from within. Higher taxes would be needed to fund these armies, potentially leading to widespread peasant rebellions. The political focus would have perpetually been on the northern threat, diverting attention and resources from other important areas like economic development, infrastructure projects in the south, or maritime exploration. We might have seen dynasties rise and fall much more quickly, unable to secure their heartlands. The relationship between the sedentary, agricultural Han Chinese and the nomadic peoples would have been fundamentally different. Without a wall creating a clear line of separation, the interactions would have been more frequent and more complex. This could have led to more conflict, yes, but also more cultural exchange, trade, and even assimilation. Perhaps new hybrid cultures would have emerged along this fluid frontier. It's possible that a northern dynasty, founded by nomadic conquerors, could have risen to power much earlier than the Yuan or Qing dynasties did in our timeline. China might have been unified under a non-Han leadership centuries sooner, completely changing the ethnic and cultural makeup of the nation. On a global scale, the balance of power would shift. A perpetually destabilized or internally focused China would be less of a regional hegemon. The ripple effects would be felt along the Silk Road. The security of this vital trade route was often linked to the stability of the Chinese Empire. Without a strong, centralized China to protect its sections of the route, trade between East and West might have been more sporadic and dangerous. This could have slowed the flow of goods like silk and spices to Europe, but also the exchange of ideas and technologies. The absence of the Great Wall also has fascinating implications for technology and science. Building the wall was one of the most ambitious engineering projects in human history. It required incredible advancements in logistics, material transport, masonry, and civil engineering on a scale never seen before. Generations of Chinese engineers and laborers learned and perfected techniques for building on difficult terrain, from mountains to deserts. Without this project, would these skills have developed as quickly? Perhaps Chinese engineering would have focused on other areas, like canal building or urban construction, but it would have lost the unique catalyst that the wall provided. The military technology would have evolved differently too. The wall necessitated the development of specific defensive tools, watchtowers for signaling, specialized crossbows, and eventually cannons designed for fortification defense. Without it, the focus would have shifted entirely to cavalry tactics, mobile warfare, and perhaps different types of weapons suited for open-field battles. This could have led to a different arms race in East Asia. Furthermore, the scientific and cultural exchange we mentioned earlier would have a huge impact. Think about the innovations that traveled along the Silk Road. Papermaking, printing, gunpowder, and the compass all went from China to the rest of the world. A less stable China or a more dangerous Silk Road could have delayed these world-changing technologies from reaching Europe and the Middle East by decades or even centuries. Imagine a European Renaissance without paper or printing, or an age of exploration without the compass. the pace of global development would have been significantly slower. Conversely, ideas from the West and Central Asia might have taken longer to reach China, slowing its own scientific progress in areas like astronomy and mathematics. Now, let's think about the people. How would daily life and culture change in a world without the Great Wall? The wall is more than just stone and earth. It's a powerful cultural symbol. It represents a line between us and them, between civilization and the barbarians. It's deeply embedded in Chinese identity, a testament to the nation's endurance and long history. Without it, the very concept of what it means to be Chinese might have evolved differently. The cultural identity might have been less monolithic and more defined by regional differences, or perhaps by a more fluid interaction with the northern cultures. Stories, poems, and art often feature the wall. It's a setting for tales of heroism, sacrifice, and separation. Think of the legend of Meng Xiongnu, whose tears brought down a section of the wall. Without this cultural touchstone, a whole genre of Chinese folklore and literature wouldn't exist. The national narrative would need a new symbol. What would it be? Perhaps the Yellow River or the Forbidden City, but neither carries the same weight of struggle and separation as the Great Wall. This sense of separation also influenced social structures. The dynasties that built the wall often had a more inward-looking, isolationist worldview. It was a physical manifestation of a desire to keep foreign influences out. Without the wall, this mindset might have been less pronounced. Perhaps Chinese society would have been more open, more cosmopolitan, and more willing to engage with the outside world much earlier. This could have led to different social norms, different philosophies, and a different trajectory for Chinese civilization, one that was perhaps more integrated with its neighbors from the start. Zooming out to the wider world, the long-term consequences are staggering. A weaker, more fragmented China would have had a huge power vacuum in East Asia. Other regional powers, like Korea, Japan, or kingdoms in Southeast Asia, might have become more dominant. The Mongol Empire's rise is another huge question. In our history, the Mongols eventually bypassed and conquered the territories protected by the wall, but without the wall to slow them down or channel their advances, would their conquest of China have been quicker and easier? Or would a China, already accustomed to mobile warfare, have put up a more effective resistance in open battle? A world where China is less of a global player for centuries would dramatically alter European history. The Age of Discovery was partly driven by the desire to find a sea route to the riches of the East, bypassing the overland routes controlled by others. If the riches of Cathay were less known or accessible, would Columbus have sailed west? Would Vasco da Gama have rounded Africa? The entire colonial era could have been reshaped or delayed. Global trade networks, political alliances, and the very map of the modern world would be unrecognizable. In a sense, the Great Wall acted as a historical anchor, holding certain dynamics in place for centuries. Removing it doesn't just affect China, it unleashes a cascade of changes that ripple across the entire globe and through time, leading us to a present day that we might not even recognize. So, we've journeyed through a world without the Great Wall of China. We've seen a political map redrawn, with dynasties facing different threats and forging new identities. We've imagined a world where technological progress takes a different path and where cultural exchange flows through different channels. The absence of this single structure creates a domino effect that reshapes not just a nation, but the entire world. It reminds us that history is not a straight line, but a complex web of decisions and consequences where the choice to build or not to build can change everything. What do you think would be the biggest change? What other historical what-ifs do you find fascinating? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading your ideas and alternate histories. If you enjoyed this journey into a different timeline, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an exploration into the past. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.